Welcome to Sleepless Readings. I must apologize for the lack of content recently. I've been dealing with a death in the family. Content should now resume as normal with a new story every Sunday. Let's kick it off tonight with a tale called An Act of Love. Let me start off by saying that no matter what anyone tells you, I loved her. She was the light of my life. What got me out of bed in the morning? What drove me forward? When she left, I couldn't take it. I was angry, sure. Hell, I did some things I'm not proud of. She left me for her high school sweetheart. I should have known something was up. Hindsight's 20/20, I suppose. She had been so distant, so lethargic and empty that I was just so happy to see her running around and laughing again. I loved her laugh. She had a way of lighting up a room when she giggled. It made me melt inside every time. She had been so excited for her high school reunion that she just couldn't shut up about it. Whenever you asked her why she was so excited, she'd always chime out the same few excuses.
I want to show off how successful I am.
Or,
to see how out of shape everyone is.
There was one that stood out even then. This one excuse that just made her misty-eyed.
I can't wait to see some old friends.
I know, but when you've been together for 10 years, you just have a habit of ignoring those red flags. No one can throw away 10 years like it's nothing. No one except her. I haven't even got to the best part, how I caught her. I went along with her to the reunion, of course, and boy did she shine. Dressed to kill she was, and kill she did. If I had $1 for every head she turned, every out-of-shape washout that kept staring her down and undressing her with their eyes, I would have had enough money to hire a better lawyer. She was the main topic of every conversation in that dingy gymnasium. That, and what a diamond like her was doing with a schmuck like me. I know I'm not no looker. I know that's not how I got her. But the way she'd look into my eyes, the way she'd gently hold my face when she'd call me handsome, and that she loved me. God, it'd make me forget. When I met her, I barely got her attention. If I hadn't helped her through her breakup and then her mother's death from that car accident, she wouldn't have noticed me. I was hanging on by a thread from the beginning, and I was just stupid enough to forget. I was such an idiot, I lost hold of the leash. She had left halfway through to chat with her friends, while I stayed to chat with old acquaintances. It was my reunion too, after all. I just didn't expect to be memorable. I was making polite, if not forced, conversation with a former classmate I let copy off me in science class. He wasn't a bad guy. I just wasn't interested much in making friends as a kid. The idea made me nervous. Letting in a stranger who you didn't know at all, spending time with them, trusting them in a classroom was hard enough. I don't know how people can let so many people in like nothing. No, sir, I was fine by myself. The fewer people know about me, the better. There's some real crazies out there. I guess that's pretty ironic coming from me. Thinking back, if I had just run into him a little sooner, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe things would have been different. He was the one that let me know all about him. He'd let it slip that Rebecca's old boyfriend would be there.
Congrats on snagging her, man,
he said in between gulps of that nasty-smelling punch.
I remember when she got together with Matt. Just the way they looked at each other made you think they'd wind up growing old and moldy in some home together. Guess some things just aren't meant to be, huh?
I'm sorry, Matt? I asked, my tie suddenly getting tighter around my neck.
You know, Matt. She must have talked about him at some point.
He filled his mouth with a slice of that greasy cake. I could hear it smack disgustingly against the insides of his mouth as he chewed.
He was asking around about her, actually. I guess he still had a soft spot for her.
I had put my untouched plate down at that point, my nerves getting the better of me. Do you know where he is? He chewed and chewed. I remember even then he couldn't put the food down. He'd hand in greasy papers and leave stains all over my sheets when he'd steal them from my backpack. With one last swallow, he offered this pathetic look and spoke with frosting-stained lips.
No idea, man. Sorry.
I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. It certainly felt like it. I remember sweating something awful as I crossed that crowded basketball court. The crowds didn't help, their fat, laughing, smiling faces almost taunting me in my desperation. I remember thinking that I just wanted to find my Rebecca, and I found her. Let me rephrase that. I found her dress. Then I found her shoes. Then her panties. And then I found her. We hadn't had sex in over a year, and here she was, fucking this piece of shit in a broom closet. I screamed at her. Hell, I ran my throat raw as I tore into her. If it wasn't for a group of faculty members passing by and holding me back, I would have killed him then and there. I thought it was just a spat, something we could work through. But as she got dressed and left with him, she finally let me know the truth.
I'm sorry.
Her voice shaking.
I just can't love you anymore.
Bullshit. I've sacrificed far too much, worked too damn hard to let her leave me like this. Do you know how hard it was to sneak into Matt's house and plant that bra where she'd notice? Do you have any idea how difficult it was to cut the brake lines on that old hag's car without leaving a trace? How many people I had to bribe to look the other way so I could get into that over-glorified art school of hers? I pissed away everything I had for that bitch, and I wasn't going to let her leave me. She loved me, not him, and I just had to remind her. So I followed them. I trailed them as they traveled out and booked that dirty Motel 6 room. I had my kit ready. I always did. I wasn't stupid. I knew that over the years she had racked up attention from admirers and potential lovers, and I knew eventually I'd have to get rid of them or risk losing her, or risk this. They'd turned out the lights and settled in. I could hear her moaning from outside. Soon, I thought to myself, I just had to wait for the right opportunity. I waited and waited and waited for that shot, and once he left to go smoke his cigarette, I took it. He should have known better. They say it on the TV, smoking kills. I snuck up and gagged him. Looking closer at him, I could see why she liked him. Even as his face twisted in fear, beads of sweat fell from his head, the tears and snot trailing down his nose, I had to admit, he was handsome. And because of this, he possessed the very thing I could never have. Her. I'm no looker. I know that's a problem I'll never solve. But as I stared at the knife, I couldn't help but think of an answer. Any experienced hunter can tell you that skinning is a tender process. And skinning a living, breathing, screaming animal, well, it was damn near impossible. Damn near. It took a steady hand and a lot of holding down. I certainly didn't have the finesse of a veteran skinner. There were a couple holes sprinkled around from my heavy-handed cutting, and it was a bit looser than I wanted it to be, but I made do. As I fixed my new face in the window, I grew confident. I knew without a doubt she'd love me now. As I tiptoed into that dark motel room, I saw her smile at me, her little finger curling in a come here motion. For the first time in over a year, we made love again. It was even better than our wedding night. As we got closer and closer to the end, I just knew everything was all right, that we could finally go back to being normal again and live happily ever after. As we reached that golden climax, I lost myself. I bent down and kissed her. I turned on the lights. Now I know how this sounds, and how it looked when you caught me. Your senior officer nearly had a heart attack seeing my handiwork. He didn't seem to think I'd done a very good job. I'll be honest, I didn't think Matt would have made it and gotten one of the housekeepers to call the police. To tell you the truth, I thought he was a goner once the blood loss kicked in. Although I would have loved to see him scare the shit out of the poor housekeeper that had to see him all like that. I wonder what they must have thought of my work. I know she and him are staying in the same hospital. That amateur reporter who interviewed them let it slip in his story. I have a picture cut out from the newspaper of her hanging in my cell to keep me company, so she knows I'm always watching over her. Could you make sure they don't spend too much time together? Please? I wrote her a letter just to let her know that I'm always thinking about her, how I can't wait to see her, and how I can't stop thinking of that special night. Could you give it to her? I know what I did was wrong, but you have to understand. I did it because she loved me.
Thank you for listening. That was An Act of Love. Please consider subscribing for more. And as always, stay sleepless.